The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show, WBC and affiliates throughout the country. Thanks again for joining this weekend. My guest this weekend is the great Sean Spicer. You know Sean Spicer. He served admirably for President Trump in his first term as his press secretary, which, boy, you must have had a bulletproof vest on when you did that, Sean. And he, among many other things, Dancing on the Stars superstar, but also he has a new book out that is called Trump 2.0. So, Sean, thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's great to see you this week, Steve, at this big Trump account event. And I appreciate you mentioning the book. Obviously, I'm excited about this. President Trump wrote the foreword. I know you got a book out too, so you know what it's like. But this is the first. I mean, I got asked over and over again.
I guarantee you, Sean, you're going to be a bestseller. A, because you're a great writer, but B, to have a foreword from the most important person in the world. That's pretty cool.
Well, he said to me at the time, he said, I'd be glad to write the foreword, but now it's got to be a bestseller, Sean. And I was like, okay, and that's no pressure, right? So, but
no pressure.
You know what that's like when he tells you stuff like that. But here's the thing. I'd get asked over and over again, like, what's the difference from when you were there in the White House and now? And I would answer every time. And I really started to think about the question. And I think there's three fundamental differences: the people, the policies, and the process. And you know this, like all the forces. So why is it different? Why is this team different than the first team? And I think there's a lot of reasons that we could talk about, but the media loves to dismiss it as loyalty. It's not. It's much deeper than that. It has to do with relationships and understanding the priorities of this president. And then, as I mentioned, the policies, like they're much more focused. This idea that you and I saw each other earlier this week at this Trump account, right? They're much more thoughtful. They have a much deeper understanding of where they want to go. And then, as I said, the processes. What does that mean? And what I try to explain to people is they now can kind of realize, like, hey, we can harness this. We can do this. Here are the forces that are going to be against us. But like when you understand the rules of the game, which they clearly do now, you can play it much more effectively. And that's why I think this I call it Trump 2.0, because I wanted to make sure people understood that, like, this is a big difference. And here's the last thing I'll tell you, Steve. No one has fully appreciated that the 4 years out of office, I kind of explain it in a sports metaphor, like a team. When you play a team at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season, the time in between, you can analyze what you did right, what you did wrong, how you played the game different. And people don't fully appreciate, Steve, why Trump 2.0 is different, because in the 4 years, all these people went around and talked to people like you and said, okay, Steve, what should we do differently economically? Like what makes this better? How do we do it? And the planning that went on, if you are back to back sequentially as a president with your terms, as every president except for one other than Donald Trump has done, January 20th becomes January 21st. The same chief of staff, the same press secretary, the same economic advisors, they all stay the same. What happens when you're out of office is you rethink everything. For 4 years, you say, really, who should I have this time doing X, Y, and Z? What should be different? How should we implement it? And organizations like America First Policy Institute, the Heritage Foundation, Newt Gingrich's organization, all had time to stop and think, what are the people, who should we get on the field? Who should we keep off the field? Like, how should we do this? And so that to me is so crucial, how we look at this.
So let me stop you right there, Sean, because I think it is an invaluable point. And as someone who was with Trump during that 2016 campaign, as you were, look, I thought the first term Trump did amazing things, but one of the things I was disturbed about when I would go visit the president and I'd see these people, and some of them were never Trumpers. And I'm like, how did these people get in the White House? They hate Trump and they're kind of professional. They just go into one administration after another. And I don't think that Trump made that mistake this second term. In other words, the people who are with him now are loyalists. I mean, he has people, sometimes when I go to see him and say, Steve, why do you criticize me on this or that? But the point, you don't want just yes, man, but he has people who share his mission of making America great again. This, Sean, there were some people who were undermining what the president was trying to do from within.
100%. And that's the thing. But this is why this is so important. When he first came into office, he'd look around, whether it's Steve Moore or Sean Spicer or something, and he'd say, hey, who do you think is a good person to do X, fill in the blank? Like, think about this. I was with him when he chose James Mattis as the defense secretary, right? He met the guy one time at Bedminster. We got on a plane, I think it was December 5th or 6th, and we flew down to North Carolina. We met with Secretary Mattis, or then General Mattis, got on, and that was it. And then he was like, everyone's like, oh, he'd be great. Okay, good. He's the right person. This time, think about this. How long has he known Pete Hegseth? 15, 20 years?
Right.
They know each other. And part of that's why I'm saying that there's a lack of understanding by so many people in the mainstream media why what you just said is so critical. Why the people surrounding him are different. Because he now knew, hey, I know what that job is. I get it. He was a political neophyte. The guy was a businessman, right? So when he came in office, he trusted people and say, you know who'd be good at this job or that job? And he went, oh, great. If you're recommending them, I'm sure they'd be good. They came in for themselves. They came in for you know, with their own issues or to oppose them.
Well, did we lose you?
No, that was Secretary Bassett speaking.
Okay. Well, there's a guy who's been an amazing addition to the second term. No, I agree with you entirely. So personnel better. What else?
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, like I said, the policies and the processes, right? So if you think about what makes this different, it's what policies are we pursuing? When we walked into the White House last time, what was the first thing that we did? Healthcare. Why? Not because that was a policy item of his, because everyone told him to do it. And so we started off, I remember specifically looking over at Tom Price, the Health and Human Services Secretary, and say, hey, who's with us? And he looked at me and said, what do you mean? I said, well, what outside groups are with us? I don't know. Think about what's been done this time in terms of these policies. You and I bumped into each other earlier this week at this Trump account event.
Yes, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And what had happened? He talked about, Secretary Bassett and others talked about how that policy developed over months. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to do it. They knew how to execute it. We were flying by the seat of our pants in Trump 1.0. And again, he was new at this and there's a million reasons, but this time they've thought through those policies. They understand why they're doing them, what forces are with them, what forces are against them. Think of all the things, the tariff policy, the immigration policy, none of those things. I write in the book that like day one, remember that all those immigration activities that Tom Homan took, they knew exactly where to go and how to do it because Tom Homan had been told, hey, when we come in, this is what we want to do. He'd been thinking about this for months, if not years. How do we execute?
Gosh.
And that's a big difference.
So, by the way, I'm talking to Sean Spicer, who you all know is the former press secretary for President Trump. I think you were the first one. So
I was.
By the way, that must have been one of the most difficult jobs. I mean, I remember when you would be standing up there and, they might as well have been throwing tomatoes at you.
Well, and again, remember, we were all doing this. And I've been a traditionalist in the sense that I talked to my former press secretary colleagues and they said, here's how this is going to go. And we had no idea when you walked in that press room that it was going to be like a den of vipers that would come after you every day trying to undermine the president and his agenda. And so I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I get the job. I watched Ari Fleischer and Dana Perino and all these people do it. I thought, okay, I've been in the game for 25 years and I know how to do this. I had no expectation of the level of hostility that was going to come from the mainstream legacy media. It was unbelievable. And I think, again, you contrast it with Caroline right now. She had worked in the first press office, under Kayleigh McEnany. She had been with the president at the end of the campaign. So she came in with a level of familiarity and understanding that frankly, neither Sarah or I in particular had.
Yeah. I'm wondering, observing what's happened in the second term, would you say the press is less or more hostile now than it was back then? Or about the same?
Well, it's a great question. I would say this. It's more the mainstream legacy media is equally hostile. However, it's more diffused. What do I mean by that? So think about the number of people in that press room now that weren't there when I was there. The Daily Signal, the Daily Wire, Turning Point USA. There were organizations. Right. And so when Caroline calls out into that audience, she has 20, 30, 40 people that weren't there when I was there. That I had 1 or 2 reporters that I knew were fair at best. She has 40. And so it gives the president a greater opportunity to talk to people who are interested in explaining to the American people what he's doing and why he's doing it.
So I'm talking to Sean Spicer, who was the first press secretary for President Trump. How you were in that position for, I'm trying to remember. It seemed like 5 years.
About 7 months. Yeah, no, it's like dog years in the press world. But it was about 7 months. Yeah, and so the campaign prior to that,
it must have felt like you were there for 5 years, because it was an amazing thing to just watch the one hostile question after another. So, by the way, I want to have Sean on again. He's been a regular on our show, and he has a new book out called Trump 2.0, with a foreword by the most important man in America and the world, Donald J. Trump. Tell our listeners something about Donald Trump, since you've been with him for so long and have gotten to know him so well, that people don't know about Donald Trump.
I think the number one thing is probably the level of empathy he has when people are in a tough time. I can say this personally. My father died December 1st, 2016, right after the election, and he was the first one to reach out. Literally, I think the first person. And then, constantly asked about it afterwards. I've seen him console complete strangers. I remember when Chief Ryan Owens, he's a SEAL team, Navy SEAL that was killed in action in an operation early on in the administration. He reached out to his wife, Karen, and it was just, I was in the room and I was almost brought to tears. And then he brought Karen and his family to the joint address. I mean, I've watched him in those moments where you see the mettle of a man, and he's just, he doesn't get credit for that aspect of who he is as a person.
That's so true. I mean, I had one, personal experience like that, Sean, when you may recall he had nominated me to be on the Federal Reserve Board, and that was quite an honor. And I was just getting beaten alive in the press. I mean, every day, I think there were 5 full-time reporters looking at everything I'd done in my life, calling girls I had dated in high school and college, to find dirt on me. And, they looked in the closet, and there were some skeletons in that closet. So anyway, I kept telling President Trump, maybe you should drop out. He said, no, I don't want you to drop out. Any other president would.
Oh yeah, they were cut loose.
Correctly.
They did the same thing, by the way, with Brett Kavanaugh too. That he sticks by his people.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So anyway, the most important part of the story, though, is finally I had to call him and say, look, President, the writing's on the wall. 4 of the Republican senators that say they won't vote for me, so it can't happen. And he said, I accept your resignation finally. And then, for about 24 hours, it just felt really down. I was very depressed because it was just an embarrassing situation.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And who do I get a call from that night?
Him. Yeah, I know. I get it.
The president called me, and you know what he said? He said, Steve Moore, you've enhanced your reputation.
Well, that's the kind of guy. I mean, that's the thing. Is that he doesn't get credit for that part of life, but it's amazing how many times I've done. This will be my 5th book. He's endorsed every one of them. I was on a reality TV show, as you noted at the outset, and he voted, literally tweeted out, "Vote for Sean on Dancing with the Stars." But like, he sticks by his people, and I don't think he gets credit for that.
So, Sean Spicer, thank you so much for coming on. Your book will be a bestseller. When is it coming out officially? When can we buy it?
It's officially out March 24th. It's available for Amazon pre-sale right now, which, as you know, Steve, is an accomplished author yourself. Those are critical. So if you go to Amazon, go to Trump 2.0, you can buy it. It's super helpful.
Awesome. Well, Sean, I wanted to have you on to talk more because we only got through 1 or 2 of your 3 or 4 things you wanted to mention. So we would love to have you on again. Thank you so much. Great seeing you at the Trump Accounts event in Washington, D.C. Another great Trump idea. And folks, this is the More Money Show. We will be right back.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Demo, not for broadcast. Property of WABC New York.
If you're thinking about changing schools,
Why wait? At Manhattan University, love those guys. You don't have to start over. With transfer-friendly pathways, your credits count, and you keep moving forward. From day one, you're part of Jasper Nation, preparing for the real world. And with New York City just a train away, opportunity is everywhere. Ready to move forward without missing a step? Visit manhattan.edu/transfer and enroll today. Manhattan University. Don't start over, move forward.